Hi, I'm Brittany Watkins. This is the final video, video number 4 of our Kick Your Cravings to the Curb video series. And in this video, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me and why I created the Skinny Jeans program. First of all, I want to say thank you so much to all of you for your amazing comments. I have been absolutely humbled by the awesome feedback that you guys have been giving me. So just huge thanks. It's absolutely warmed my heart to see all the changes that people are going through and just all the awesome comments. So huge appreciation out to you. I've also heard a lot of questions about people asking about my personal story. In the very first video, I talk about living away from my house by the time I was 15. And so I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about that. So as you know, at the age of 15, I lived away from my family. And what actually happened there was that I had spent a few years prior to that being a pretty rebellious teenager. My parents got divorced when I was around 10, and just through that and a lot of other family drama, I became a very angry child, and I started to rebel. I was doing things like jumping out the window and wouldn't listen to anything that my parents told me. And so they got so fed up that one day I came home to all my things on the front porch with a note that said, "You no longer live here." And it's funny because I'm smiling about that now. This is how you can tell I've done so much work on myself, because at the time it was really traumatic. I came home, all my things were there on the front porch, and I got a bag, I put everything in a suitcase, and I was determined that I was going to make my own way. So I started staying at friends' houses. I would go from one friend's house to the other friend's house, and I would stay just until their parents started asking questions like, "Hey, where are her parents?" or "How much longer is she going to be here?" That would be my signal to hit the road again. And so I never wanted to impose, but I needed a place to stay. And one day I woke up, and I had been staying in a friend of mine's trailer. They had a trailer on the side of their house. And this friend of mine, who was sort of involved with the bad kids, and all the kids at school that would go hang out in this trailer. And so that was sort of my safe house while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and of course rebelling against my parents. But I woke up one morning, and all the kids were in this trailer, and they were drinking, and they were smoking, and they were swearing. And I just remember waking up, and I just felt so yucky that I decided, you know what, this isn't my life. I'm not going to live like this. So that was when I decided to get an apartment and go to homeschool, and I got a job. I worked at Ace Hardware. I made $5.50 an hour. I worked 50-hour weeks, and on my off time, I would study. But being on my own in that little apartment, it was actually a room. I rented a room from a woman who owned an apartment. I felt so lonely, even though I knew that, you know, this is what I wanted to do, and that I was trying to be a warrior and just be independent. At night it would still hit me. And that was actually, I was about 15 at the time, and this was when the overeating would start. So at night, when I would feel lonely and unloved and scared, what I started to do was cope. Instead of asking my friends or family or other people that I didn't think I could depend on for help, I started to use the food. And at first I didn't realize that I was doing this. I just used the food. It was completely unconscious. This behavior was totally unconscious. And so I started to use the food, and I didn't realize that I was doing this until I started to gain weight. And I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out why I was gaining weight. So that's when I started dieting. And I threw myself into all the new diet books, whatever new diet fad was out there, whatever pill or book or, you know, whatever was in, I was trying it. And what I found was that I was so deprived from all of these diets that I would only stick to them for about 3 days, and then what do you know, the binging would start again. So the binging actually started to fill this void in my heart, but it created more of a problem when I was dieting. So it just became this cycle. Every single day I would wake up and I would have the best intentions for moving forward. I would say, okay, today I'm not going to binge. Today I'm going to be totally good. I'm not going to have one single thing that's bad. And then as the day would go on, I would maybe be tempted by some cookies, or that chocolate would look really good, or something stressful would happen, and I couldn't control myself. And so this was just such a vicious, vicious cycle that I was doing to myself. So I started actually exercising as a way to try to burn the calories. But no matter how much exercising I was doing, I could not exercise enough to make up for those extra calories. So I gained some weight, and I couldn't figure it out. I could not figure out why I couldn't lose the weight. And so I was trapped in this cycle of waking up every day, with the best intentions, starting my diet, and then at night I would just absolutely cave. And I felt so bad about myself. I felt overweight, I felt fat, I felt unattractive. And so what I ended up doing was I would stay home. I didn't want to see any of my friends. I didn't want to go anywhere because I felt so insecure about the way that I looked. And so if my friends would call me and invite me out places, I would say no because I didn't want them to see how much weight I had gained. And what ended up happening was that I would stay home and I would just end up eating more. So about a year later, I was 16 at the time, my father did something very smart. He had been seeing a therapist that he really got a lot out of the work that he was doing with him. And so he bribed me with a car. He told me that if I went to see this therapist, his name was Stephen Kessler, if I went to see him 6 times, he would buy me a car, and if I never wanted to go again, I wouldn't have to, and I could still keep the car. So that was a pretty good deal for me. And so I decided to take him up on it. And after the first session with Steve, which Steve is now a lifelong friend of mine and has been a guide for me my whole life, basically. After the first session, I was absolutely hooked. He was the first person that got me. And so we started our work together. And I went the 6 times, I got my little car, and he and I continued our work together, and we would go week after week. We worked together for about a year, and things were going really well. I was making a lot of changes in my life. I was really understanding the divorce and all of the anger and frustration that I had around that and my own self. And I remember one day, one of our sessions, he came in and he said, I just got back from a workshop over the weekend and I learned something. It seems a little bit silly, but I'd like to try it with you. And so, of course, I was all ears. I was totally game. And it was tapping. It ended up being emotional freedom techniques. And so he taught me how to tap on the points, and yeah, it seemed weird, and it was like, what the heck am I doing? But the results were incredible. We tried it on my memory of arriving home to all my things on the front porch, and that memory used to just have me in tears within minutes of thinking about it. And after doing 1 or 2 rounds of tapping, I was literally laughing about it. So we continued to do the technique, and we used it on all of my emotional stresses and trauma that had gone on in my life, and that was when I really started to make big changes in my life. At the time, I didn't think about using it for weight until I told him about this emotional eating problem, until I told him that, hey, you know what, I'm gaining weight and I don't like the way that I look right now, and this is I can't do anything about it. And so I started to explain my behavior to him, and he introduced me to Janine Roth's book. And so after reading her book, she writes about emotional eating, and I think the book was called Feeding the Hungry Heart. So once I read that book, it was great, because I finally felt like, oh my gosh, somebody gets me. Somebody understands my struggle. But it didn't offer a solution. It didn't teach me how to stop those cravings. It didn't teach me how to stop those emotional urges. So after a little while, I got the idea of pairing EFT with the work of Janine Roth. And so I started to work through all of the emotional aspects of why I needed the food, what the food was doing for me. And so once I did that, that's when I actually started to make real changes in my life. So fast forward about 4 years, 4 or 5 years, I was 21, 22 at the time. I had done so much work on myself with the working with Stephen Kessler, and also pairing that work with EFT, that I started making huge advances in my career also. I was one of the highest paid sales executives at a bank, and I was also one of their youngest employees. So, it was really, EFT was really, really helpful for me to clear out all the emotional baggage that I was carrying, and it really allowed me to flourish. And I loved my career. I loved my career in banking. I loved real estate, and I did really, really well at that. I had that career for about 4 or 5 years, and then the real estate market crashed. And at the time, I was sort of looking for something else. I had been doing that for, a lot of years, and I just, I was ready for something new, but I didn't know what it was. And I was actually fortunate enough at the time to take 2 years off. And so when the real estate market started to go down, I said, okay, you know what, this isn't working anymore, so I don't know what I want to do, but I know it's not this. And so what I did was I put a bunch of money in the bank, and I took classes. I researched everything. So I did everything from neuro-linguistic programming to EFT to rapid eye to all sorts of things, Reiki even. And I just was looking for what my calling was. And the question that was so pivotal for me was, what would you do every day if you didn't have to work? And I really had to think about that. It took me about 2 days to just mold this over in my head. And what I realized was it was EFT, it was tapping. And it was helping people, and helping women especially, with their cravings and with emotional eating. I was doing that for free. I was studying all this work, and I was so excited about it. I was working on myself, I was working on my friends, I was working on my family. Everybody that had any sort of struggle, I would almost like corner them, I would get them into a corner and say, okay, let me just try this tapping thing on you. And most of them were willing. And the results were so cool that it made me so excited. So that was something that I did. I didn't even think about it for a paycheck. And once I had gone through all of my training, I realized that working with women around weight and emotional eating was my absolute calling. And not only because I had a personal story about it, but because I was getting such amazing results. And when I was going through my own journey of trying to heal my own emotional eating and weight issues, I was so frustrated because there wasn't information out there that actually worked. I would read articles or I would read books that would tell me about my problem, but it never gave me a solution that actually worked. And it wasn't until I started pairing EFT and the tapping with the emotional work that I started to get the results. And when I looked around, there was no program out there that offered that. And so that's when I started to start working with people and start working with friends and family. And over the years of working with people and friends and family, and then when I turned it into a career, clients, I developed this 6-week program. And I took probably about 4 years to research every single thing out there that's available that has weight loss in it, has emotional eating in it, that has to do with EFT. I researched everything and I compiled what I think is the best information into this 6-week program. So that is why I created Skinny Jeans, and we have had such amazing feedback from the people that have participated in the 6-week program and also from my clients. I mean, the success has just been incredible, and it absolutely warms my heart when I see people that are making these huge, huge shifts. These are women and people that have been struggling with their weight and emotional eating and cravings for 20, sometimes 30, sometimes 40 years. Are finding this work and are able to heal from their issues. They're able to stop eating emotionally, to stop the emotional cravings, to stop binging, and really free themselves from the jail that experience creates. So it's just been such a pleasure and such an honor to do this work, and I really, really, really hope that you guys get a lot out of this program. If you've experienced a big shift in any of these videos, just imagine what it will be like with the actual program with me. So we're going to be opening up the doors soon to offer the program and make it available to you. And it's only going to be available for a couple of days, because then we're going to close the doors to actually start the program. The program is filled with tons of bonuses. You're going to hear from lots of celebrities, tons of science about weight and emotional eating and EFT. And we're actually, for all the participants that sign up for the program, you're actually going to get 3 live calls with me. So that will be your time to come with all your questions about the program, and whatever you're really struggling with, I'll be there to answer those questions for you and to help you and walk you through it step by step live. So I really, really, really hope you'll join me. You will be receiving an email in the next couple of days that will tell you exactly when we're going to open the doors and make the program available. So if this work resonates at all with you, I really, really hope you'll join me. Thank you so much for being here and with me on this journey, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.